This is TWiT.
All right, there is not much in this tech world that is instantly disheartening, like losing data on a hard drive. It sucks. I can speak firsthand. We'll talk about that later. But catastrophic hard drive failure is a bitter pill to swallow. Getting that data back, if it's even possible, is super expensive. Sean Hollister wrote a piece for The Verge talking about a particularly pesky SSD that is causing his coworker to undergo the 7 stages of grief, I have to imagine at this point. Sean is here to talk all about it. Welcome back, Sean.
Hi, thanks for having me.
7 stages of grief. You're talking him down a little bit at this point, right? Because this has not happened to him once. It's happened to him a couple of times at this point.
Yeah, so these SanDisk Extreme Portable SSDs were very popular among photographers and videographers especially, because they can go up to 4 terabytes and transfer that tremendous quantity of data at tremendous speeds. Wow. Because it's all solid-state storage, very fast, very portable. And Viren bought into this, like my colleague Viren bought into this, like many others. And like some others, he discovered one day that his files had started to go missing. He actually watched them vanish, some of them right before his eyes. He tried adding them back when some of them vanished. He tried adding some of the files from his computer back to the drive, and he saw them disappear one by one. Something very strange was going on with these drives' file systems. An editor at Ars Technica discovered, who was also having this issue. And after getting a replacement drive eventually from Western Digital, which owns SanDisk, this has just happened to Viren again. This drive can no longer connect properly to his computer. We have no idea what's happened to the 3 terabytes of Verge video that's on it. Thankfully, trying to walk him through the stages of grief here. Thankfully, this is not content that had not already gone into our videos. The footage is live on The Verge's YouTube and social media channels. We just wanted to back up another copy of it to the cloud where we can store it safely. And Viren, when this happened, was on vacation, bringing his drives along, shooting some more footage from us, because he's a workaholic. He does this even on his vacations. And he hadn't quite backed up that chunk to our archive yet.
Ooh, gut punch. We've been there. Again, we'll talk about it in a moment. I want to at the end of this interview, I want us to have a little powwow on data loss, because I'm sure we've all been there. But let's go back to the original article, because you wrote an article a couple of months ago when he had first lost the first drive. And I guess that was a 4 terabyte drive back then. What Western Digital, what are they saying along the way? Like, are they acknowledging this issue? How are they responding to this? Because as you point out, it's not just your colleague. It's also, Ars Technica and forums and other people are experiencing this. What is Western Digital doing?
I think this is the reason why this is such a big story and so controversial and generating so much anger is because Western Digital hasn't meaningfully responded to this in a way that would satisfy anybody who's lost anything on any of these drives. So I actually feel a little bit guilty. I talked Viren out of writing the original version of the story we could have written back in, February, March of this past year. I told him, there's not quite enough evidence here that this is a big deal. Check and see what Western Digital SanDisk will do for you. We need to get their responses, all the due diligence that goes into a good piece of journalism. And, well, the first thing that happened was they didn't respond to him very well for a while at all, because this was around the same time that Western Digital was undergoing a giant data breach where some hacking group may have installed some ransomware or something like that. I can't remember the details, and stole customer data from Western Digital, got into their internal systems, and knocked down a bunch of their customer support systems for a while. Some of their cloud services, I think, were down for like a couple of months even. It was a huge deal for Western Digital. Not everybody connects that Western Digital is the owner of SanDisk, has been for a while now. But yeah, so anybody who needed their SanDisk support was going through that. They said, I guess we could send you a 2 terabyte replacement drive or a couple of 2 terabyte replacement drives for your 4 terabyte. There was something going on. Viren had heard from a customer support rep, which, by the way, in journalism, we know you can't take anything a random customer support rep says as gospel, because you don't know what they actually know. It's been things have been filtered down several levels by the time it reaches the customer support rep. Yeah. So he'd heard that they were going to stop selling these drives, that they were no longer going to be in stock anywhere. And I also wanted to make sure we waited and found out whether that was true. Because if they were going to recall the drives or pull them off the market, with or without saying anything about it, that would be a huge deal. But they didn't do that. What they did instead, while not really responding to customers or promising them vague timelines or some replacement drive, what they did instead was they put these drives on deep, deep discount.
Ooh.
The 4 terabyte drive originally retailed for about $700. The real street price a bit lower than that. But all of a sudden you could have these things for $300.
Yeah, and that's super appealing to someone looking for a portable SSD like this of that size. They're not going to bat an eye. They're going to be like, oh yeah, this is a reputable brand. This is an amazing screaming deal. Why wouldn't I? Yeah. Absolutely.
Great reviews, great speeds, huge storage, killer price. Why wouldn't you buy this? And the reason that you wouldn't buy this is because people started finding out that they would fail in a catastrophic way that may mean your data is gone. It's possible to recover the data. Some people have had luck with very simple techniques to recover the data. One person came up to Varen on Twitter and said, came up to Varen on X and said, hey, try plugging it into your iPad. The file system might be compatible with that. I had some luck with that. They came down with all kinds of inane things like try different USB-C cables.
Right.
But the reality was he's tried a bunch of this stuff and he's not getting it back unless he sends it to probably a data recovery service. There are pieces of software online that he might be able to try. Some of them have reached out. Some of the companies behind the software have reached out to us in the week since the original story, and again since the new story, and said, "Hey, here's a free code for our software. We'd love for you to try our product and talk us up and all this." We might try one of those and see if that works. If we have to go to drive recovery service, Drive Savers is another company. Well-known data recovery services. They reached out to us and say, hey, we'll do it for free for you as well. Well, I emailed them back, how much do you normally charge? And they said there's a price range of $900 to $3,900.
Yeah,
that's almost $4,000.
Especially on that size. It probably costs more when you're recovering from a larger hard drive size, and 4 terabytes is not a small amount of data, I imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah. He told me the first time Viren went looking, he told me he got a quote of something like $1,800 was a decent price that he heard for recovering this. And we'll have to think about it. I mean, we do want this Verge footage to be in our archive so we could potentially use it for future stories down the road. It's not the end of the world. We used the footage that we needed. We do normally back up everything several places. We have gotten so many comments on this story from people, well-meaning people who are like, hey, you should try backing things up this way. Don't you know the 3-2-1 rule? Right. We've also gotten lots of comments from angrier people who's like, what the hell are you doing, Verge? Don't you know about backups? We do those things.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the questions that I have is when you have a drive and that drive fails and then you're offered a replacement drive by said company, is there a lesser amount of faith that you have in that replacement drive? You know what I mean? Like and especially like essentially they're replacing the same kind of drive for another of the same kind of drive. Did that give your colleague any pause? Like I'd at least take a moment. I think if I would put myself into his position and kind of be like, like I'm getting a replacement drive, but how certain am I that I want to use this drive?
There's a spectrum of trust with something like this, and it depends on how much the company assures you and how much it does to make the drive better, and also how much you have tested the drive to see. Now, he started out when he got this replacement drive back, it came a week after Western Digital issued an update to these drives that was theoretically going to address the issue. Mind you, the way Western Digital advertised this update was that we have identified a firmware issue that can cause yada yada drives to unexpectedly disconnect from a computer. They don't want to say anything about data loss. They don't want to scare people away with catastrophic data loss.
Oh, God.
So they just say your portable SSD may require a firmware update. And hopefully people took them up on that. Now, but we got this drive. Again, they originally told us they could not ship us this 4 terabyte drive back. They were saying, hey, well, maybe we can give you a couple 2 terabytes. In this case, we got the drive back a week and a half after that firmware update was issued. And they sent us the 4 terabytes. So we're like, okay, they fixed it, right?
Yeah, right.
And then he went on and tested it for a while with his personal files. He didn't, immediately start putting important work files on the replacement for the drive that originally failed. After he convinced himself, okay, this seems to be working. Files aren't disappearing yet. This is my best drive in my entire collection that I use for work. It's the one that's big and fast. Let's do it. And so he did. He took this along with him to, I think he went back to Croatia, and he's using Starlink out there as his internet service, and his upload speeds are, and all of a sudden it's not working. Petapixel also. This is Petapixel, a popular photography blog. Viren reads it religiously. I used to. They were still using their drives for a long time. 2 days ago, they wrote that they can no longer recommend SanDisk portable SSDs. They themselves have also had these failures, and they're done with them. They will not trust them with their own footage anymore. And what's the company going to do about that? You can't just say I'm gonna send you a replacement drive anymore. It tried that already.
Right.
Even if it did, we wouldn't trust it again. Are they going to pay for data recovery for affected customers? I'm waiting to hear back.
God, I'd be surprised about that. At the cost of data recovery. But yeah, you do also point out in your article that Amazon, Google, they're not making it very easy for people to find this truth about it. A lot of the reviews that are shown on there are glowing reviews as far as that's concerned. Tech sites apparently not doing much better, right?
Yeah, I was, oh my gosh, I was swapping links with Viren a few days ago. Oh my God, look at this. CNET is writing about this amazing deal on the SanDisk Extreme Portable SSD without mentioning once that these things have had big failures. Cult of Mac, same thing. SanDisk has a great reputation. Here's a great price on its drive from this company with a great reputation. I was ready to be very angry at them, shame them a little bit. We don't do that too much in journalism, but I do like to point out when there's something blatantly wrong. And I had to pull the punch though, because I said, okay, well, what are these folks reading? And I looked into Google, and the issues, they were not surfacing anywhere near the top of the Verge first page of search results. And how many of you, using Google, click through to pages 2, 3, 4 when you're looking for a drive? Google,
first page. Yeah.
The way Google search engine results pages work is they determine whether your search belongs to a particular category of searches before they issue the results. So if I put a query into Google that's likely to return news stories, Google thinks people want news stories, it'll do that. But for the kinds of searches around SanDisk, 4 terabyte SSD, even if you mention the full name of the product, what you're going to get is you're going to get their product search results, which are going to point you first and foremost to the product page,
right?
Marketing videos, retailers where you can buy it, because Google thinks that's what you want, to the extent where it does not meaningfully surface bad reports about the drive anymore. And if you go to Amazon, for instance, and you want to look at this drive, it has 4.7 stars out of 5.0. And the 2 top rated reviews, when I looked last, were absolutely 100% astroturfed. One of them looked like it plagiarized directly from the other, and both of them were suspect, even though Amazon marks these down as verified purchase. So somebody had to either purchase the drives and then write the review, or somehow tricked Amazon's system so that they could write this fake review of the drive to help boost its rating. Now, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that WD or SanDisk, is paying, for astroturfing. I don't know that. I don't know that they're doing any reputation services here, but that kind of thing has come up in the past. If there are any whistleblowers over at WD SanDisk that have heard of something like this, tell me. I'm at Sean@theverge.com.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So this is SanDisk Extreme Pro, Extreme Portable, Extreme Pro Portable, WD, My Passport SSD. At least those are the 4 that you listed out at the top of the article, just so that people know of like what to avoid. Did I get those all correctly? Or
yeah, that's correct. The WD My Passport. Now, we didn't actually know for a fact that this affected the 2 terabyte model, the 1 terabyte model, the SanDisk,
Right.
or any drives labeled as WD. In this case, the WD My Passport 4 terabytes. Western Digital listed those as products that were impacted by the firmware issue, which again, Western Digital claimed was simply a possibility of disconnect. So we had heard from Ars Technica that one of the smaller Extreme Pros was affected in their case. I can't tell you for certain which drives are susceptible to this issue, but those are the ones listed under the firmware update.
Yeah. Okay. We got to wrap this up, but before we do, I do want a show of hands of the 3 of us here. Who has ever lost catastrophic data, a catastrophic amount of data to a hard drive failure?
An amount, but not stuff I cared about. So
Okay.
I'm lucky.
Well, you are lucky.
No kid photos in there, nothing like that.
That's good.
I lost some stuff I really cared about.
Mine wasn't, I would say I quickly got over it. But
yeah, I did quickly get over it too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of strange.
It was in college and it was stuff that I had to redo, so that I could turn it in.
Yeah.
But I didn't lose any photos or anything like that, thank goodness. All my memories were there because they were elsewhere. But yeah, I remember losing a number of, it was like all these different things that needed to come together. I was like, well, great, now I get to redo everything.
All right. Well, at least you could redo it. Yeah, the hard drive that I lost, I accidentally knocked it off the table onto the ground, and portable hard drive, and it had a bunch of old project files, like music project files from like 20 years ago. And I went through the 7 stages of grief on that one, and contacted Drive Savers and got the bill. And at a certain point, I was like, how much of this is worth it versus me just kind of like practicing letting go. Just let go. And I let go, and then I got over it quickly. It was all good. But
that's good.
Would I prefer to have it? Yes, I would. Anyways. Well, Sean, thank you so much for hopping on and telling us a little bit about this. When I read this story, I was like, this sounds like something that needs as much attention as possible so we can save other people from falling for what feels kind of like a little sneaky trap. It's like, buy these really cheap hard drives, but don't know the details of why they're cheap. So thank you for hopping on with us today and telling us all about it. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Sean Hollister writes for The Verge, and you should definitely follow his work over there. Take care of yourself, Sean. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This episode of Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. If you're ready for a new career in IT, then check out ACI Learning. They offer affordable certification-based training that will help you launch your new career in IT. Individuals use the code TWiT30 for 30% off a standard or premium individual IT Pro membership at go.acilearning.com/twit.